Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is all about Gourgeist, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Gourgeist is a Ghost Grass type Pokemon introduced into Generation 6, and one of two Pokemon introduced this generation that possess this unique typing, the other of which being Trevenant. As for its abilities though, the first one that it gets is known as Pickup, which is an ability that is not particularly useful in competitive battles, as its use is extremely situational, requiring you to not have an item, and for either you or your opponent to use Fling, so you can then pick up the item afterwards, or for your opponent to consume an item and then you pick it up after they've consumed it. So it's extremely situational, and more often than not will not be a very good ability to run on Gourgeist, so you are probably most of the time going to be going with its second ability, which is known as Frisk, which is an ability that allows you to see whatever item your opponent might be holding. And this is particularly useful in my opinion, because it will allow you to reveal what type of set your opponent might be trying to run, and then plan your course of action in battle around that Pokemon and its item. And this is especially useful for Pokemon that can run a variety of different sets with a lot of different items, as you can figure them out a lot quicker with the use of this ability. But its last ability that Gourgeist gets is known as Insomnia, which is its hidden ability that makes it so that this Pokemon can never be put to sleep. Now, unfortunately, this ability, in my opinion, is almost completely useless on this Pokemon because it is a Grass type, and this generation, Grass types are immune to moves such as Sleep Powder and Spore, which are the two most commonly seen sleep-inducing moves. And the only other ones that you might see are the occasional Hypnosis, which rarely ever hits and is rarely ever used for that matter, and Dark Void, which you will only really ever see on Smeargle in competitive battles unless you're in the Uber tier, where obviously Darkrai has that. But that's very rare to see as well because it's only one Pokemon that could even pack it. So more often than not, Insomnia will be not a very good ability on Gourgeist because its Grass typing just takes care of its need to not be put to sleep by any sleep, or by the most common sleep-inducing moves anyway. But as for its stats, as you can see right here, there are 4 different stat spreads for Gourgeist that are based entirely upon this Pokemon's size. There is the small size, the average size, the large size, and the super size, obviously going from smallest to biggest, and they all have a little bit of a difference in their stats. So the one thing to keep in mind that stays the same is this Pokemon's base 122 physical defense, which is fantastic. Its base 58 special attack, which is not that great, and its base 75 special defense, which is about average, but you can solidly invest into that on most spreads because your defense is just so good naturally. The stats that do change, though, are your HP, attack, and speed, depending on the size of the Gourgeist. So, for example, the smallest Gourgeist has the lowest HP number, whereas the biggest one has the highest HP. The smallest also has the lowest attack, whereas the biggest has the highest attack, and the smallest has the highest speed, whereas the biggest one has the lowest speed. So depending on the type of set you run, you are more often than not going to want a different size of your Gourgeist to allow you to achieve that set a lot easier. So for example, a more offensive set would require maybe the super size one, whereas a more speedy based set might make better use of the small size. And in the coming sets that I'm about to show you, I will be dictating exactly what size I recommend for each of the sets I'm about to show you. So for the first set in this video, we are going to be showing off a really great defensive set to run with this Pokemon that is recommended to be used with either the large size or the super size Gourgeist, as you can see right there in the top right corner. So we're going to start this set off by giving Gourgeist a Careful Nature to increase its special defense and lower its special attack, and for the ability we're going to be going with Frisk. As for the EVs, we're going to put 240 into its HP to almost max that out, 252 EVs to do its special defense to max that out, and then the remainder 16 EVs to do its speed to make this Pokemon just a little bit faster. And for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, the first one we are going to be going with on this set is going to be Will-O-Wisp, which will allow Gourgeist to easily burn an opposing attacker, potentially crippling a physical attacker if they happen to be a physical attacker, and slowly wear down their health throughout the battle. And this is particularly useful on this Pokemon because it has such a fantastic defensive stat to begin with, and we're also maxing out its special defense, allowing this Pokemon to now effectively take physical and special hits very easily. But to be used in combination with your status-inducing move that could also cripple physical attackers, we're going to be going with Seed Bomb as our main Grass-type stab, and then Shadow Sneak as our main Ghost-type stab, which works very well on this Pokemon because it does give it some revenge-killing properties, since Shadow Sneak is a priority-based move. So this is particularly useful on Gourgeist to give it a little bit more of an offensive presence and potentially easily take down a Pokemon at a low range of health, where it normally might not be able to if you weren't running a priority move. And the last move on this set is going to be Pain Split, which will be essential for this Pokemon to allow it to keep its health up throughout battle, as Pain Split averages the HP of you and your opponent, and if your opponent obviously has more HP than you, Pain Split will obviously recover your health, and then you will successfully be able to use Gourgeist for even longer in battle. And the reason why I recommend the large or supersize one is because you can potentially want a little bit more speed on this set for Gourgeist, which is where you would run the large one. But if you want to just go highest HP stat and highest attack stat, the supersize is definitely the way to go. Up next, I have a sub-seeding set that works very well for Gourgeist to use. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Careful Nature to increase its special defense and lower its special attack. And we're going to be going with Frisk, as well as the same EV spread as before, with 240 HP EVs, 252 special defense EVs, and 16 speed EVs. And we are also going to be running leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. This set is also, again, recommended to be used with the large or supersized one. However, there is an alternative EV spread you can run that makes use of the smaller sizes of Gourgeist, which I will get to in just a second. But for the moves, the first one we're going to be making use of is going to be Substitute, to get Gourgeist behind a protective barrier to shield it from attacks and statuses, and take hits much easier, and to also work in combination with the second move on the set, which is known as Leech Seed, that will slowly drain away your opponent's health while recovering yours. And this obviously works very well with Substitute, as you do need at least 25% of your HP to make the Substitute, and Leech Seed will help you recover a lot of that health back very quickly. But to be used in combination with Substitute and Leech Seed, we're going to be going with one main stab attack on the set, which will be in the form of either Seed Bomb or Phantom Force. Seed Bomb obviously being your main grass stab, whereas Phantom Force will be your main ghost stab on this set. And what's very cool about Phantom Force is that it is a 2-turn move where you become invisible for the first turn and cannot be attacked. So if you have a Substitute up and a Leech Seed up, you could go for Phantom Force, stall out for even more Leech Seed and not be attacked that turn, and then hit your opponent with a very powerful ghost type move in return, which could lead to some really solid damage against your opponent. And the last move on the set is either going to be Will-O-Wisp or Rock Slide. Will-O-Wisp obviously there to increase your defensive capabilities by burning physical attackers, as well as find another way to slowly wear away your opponent's health in combination with the Leech Seed, provided they are not a grass type, obviously, since those cannot be Leech Seeded. But Rock Slide also works very well for this Pokemon, as it allows it to have a very reliable way to hit a lot of the types that it is weak to, such as the Fire and Flying and Ice types that it is weak to, for some super effective damage. So that could be a fantastic coverage move on the set, but obviously Will-O-Wisp is there to allow you to have some even better defensive capabilities, and also wear down your opponent's HP even more in combination with the Leech Seed. But as I said, there is an alternative way to run this with the smaller sizes of Gourgeist. So we are going to be going this time with a Jolly Nature to increase your speed but lower your special attack. And then for the EVs, we are going to be running max physical attack, 4 EVs into our special defense, and then max speed with 252 EVs into that. And then we're going to be using the leftovers with the same moveset as I just showed you with the larger sizes of Gourgeist. And the reasoning for maybe picking this set over the other one is that because you have less HP on the smaller sizes, your subs are actually smaller, meaning that your Leech Seed recovery is actually a greater percentage of your health, if that makes any sense. So this can allow you to substitute very easily, even better than before with the other one, whereas you are able to take more hits with the larger sizes because you're a little bit of a bulkier variant. But being fast could also mean that you could gain some more KOs a lot easier, because you will have more freedom to use your attacking moves, since you will outspeed plenty of your opponents, and also have a greater chance to get up a substitute before your opponent is able to attack. So both of these variations on this set work very well, and it's really dependent upon the type of team you're running Gourgeist on, or whether you want a bulky subseeder or a more offensive subseeder. Up next, I have an offensive Trick Room set for Gourgeist to run that is recommended to be used with the supersize, as it is the slowest and also most powerful of all the forms of Gourgeist. So we're going to start this set off by giving it a Brave Nature to increase its physical attack and lower its speed, and for the ability we're going to be going with Frisk. As for the EVs, we're going to max its HP with 252 EVs into that stat, max its physical attack with 252 EVs into that stat, and then put the remainder 4 EVs into its special defense. And also for the IVs, we are going to try to get one with 0 IVs to make this Gourgeist as slow as possible. And as for the item, we can either go with a Power Herb to be used in combination with one of the moves on the set, or a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacks on this set. But for the first move that we're going to be going with, it is going to be Trick Room to allow us to twist the dimensions and thus make the slower Pokemon on the battlefield the faster ones, which is really great because this Pokemon is actually able to set this up for itself to make it a very quick, quote-unquote quick Pokemon because of its low speed. And to be used in combination with Trick Room, we are going to be making use first of Seed Bomb, which will be our main grass-type stab attack on this set, and then we're going to be going with Rock Slide, which is an excellent coverage move for any grass-type, as I mentioned before, because it allows you to hit a lot of Pokemon for super effective damage that would want to come in and deal some heavy damage to your Gourgeist. But for the last move on this set, there are actually a plethora of options you could potentially run. The first of which being Phantom Force, which is a move that is meant to be used in combination with your Power Herb, as this will give you a one-time, one-turn Phantom Force, which obviously is really great since you don't have to worry about the charge turn and your opponent switching out when they see you going for it. But if you want to go for a just large explosion to take out your opponent, explosion is obviously the way to go. You could also go with Gyro Ball to give you a nice, really strong steel type move that is based upon your speed, and the slower you are, the stronger this move is. So this can be very beneficial and potentially give you a really solid way to take out fairy types because they're obviously going to be weak to the Gyro Ball. You could also run Shadow Sneak, which might seem pretty useless since you are running a Trick Room team, but having the priority can be useful in and outside of Trick Room, and it's also just a powerful and useful ghost type move for you to go with. But if you also want to just bring your opponent down with you when you are at a low range of HP, Destiny Bond is definitely the way to go. So all 5 of these options do have their merits on this set, and it's really whichever one you think is going to be the most useful. Also, if you are capable of counting your Trick Room turns very well, going with Phantom Force can actually work very well for you if you are able to go for Phantom Force the turn right before Trick Room runs out, and then then it runs out at the end of the turn, and then you actually will end up going after your opponent, meaning that you can actually dodge 2 attacks as the Trick Room wears out, and then hit them for a powerful move if they don't switch, obviously. So that is another way to make use of that move as well, also in combination with the Power Herb, but more often than not, the Life Orb will probably be your most reliable way to increase your damage output on this particular Gourgeist. As for a more generic offensive set to run on Gourgeist, I have this one right here, which is going to start off by giving it an Adamant nature to increase its physical attack and lower its special attack, and is recommended to go with either the large or supersized Gourgeist for purposes of this set. But as for the ability, we're going to be going with Frisk again, and for the EVs, we're going to put 240 into its HP, 252 into its physical attack to max that out, and then 16 EVs into its speed to make it a bit faster. And for the item, we can either go with a Choice Band to increase its physical attack by 1 stage while locking it into a move, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of its attacks, while also having the freedom to use up all of our moves, and also having that 10% recoil we do take every time we do attack, or Leftovers to allow Gourgeist to recover a little bit of HP at the end of our return. But the first move that we're going to be making use of on this set is going to be Shadow Sneak to allow Gourgeist to have a really powerful ghost type stab priority move to go for at its disposal, and this can be very useful for allowing you to revenge kill many Pokemon that are at a lower range of health. But to go along with this, we are going to be going with Seed Bomb to be our main grass type stab attack, and then Rock Slide for some really great type coverage in combination with your other 2 moves. As for the last move, this is more or less largely dependent upon the type or the item that you go with on this set. Trick can obviously be very useful in combination with a Choice Band, as it will allow you to choice lock an opponent that probably wouldn't want to be choice locked, and thus crippling them for the remainder of the battle. Pain Split can also be used in combination with either the Life Orb or Leftovers, or even the Choice Band if you really want to, as a way to regain even more HP to allow this particular Gourgeist to do some more damage throughout battle, as it will regain its health and be able to take a hit or 2 more than it normally would be able to. Or you could go with Trick or Treat, which is recommended to be used with a Life Orb or Leftovers, as this is Gourgeist's signature move in that it adds the grass typing to your opponent's type as it is. So for example, if your opponent happens to be a dual-typed Pokemon, say for example like a Cloyster, which is water and ice, you go for Trick or Treat, it is now water, ice, and ghost, and because it is now a ghost type, you are free to then go for a Shadow Sneak to hit it for some super effective damage, which is something really cool and unique to this Pokemon, as it is, I believe, the only Pokemon that gets this move, aside from obviously Smeargle. But it is also important to keep in mind that this will not work on ghost types. So for example, if you were thinking, oh, I could use this on a ghost type and make it like a ghost type or something like that, that won't actually work, unfortunately. So that is something to just keep in mind, but it is a very cool and unique move to make use of to allow you to have an easier way to do super effective damage to your opponents, because if you do use this move on the switch, you can just go for the Shadow Sneak, and that could potentially allow you to then do some increased damage to your opponent through the move now being super effective. But there is also a second way to run this set if you want to be more of a faster variant of this set. So the first thing that we are going to do is change up the nature to give us the option of either running the Adamant or Jolly nature. Adamant to increase your physical attack and lower your special attack, whereas Jolly will increase your speed and lower your special attack. And for the size, it is recommended that you use either the small, average, or large size Gourgeist, which is what the small through large means right there at the top of the screen. The ability is going to stay the same in Frisk, and for the EVs, we're going to max our attack this time with 252 EVs in that, put 4 into our special defense, and then put 252 EVs into its speed to max it out as well. And for the item, we're going with the same ones as before, but we're also adding a Choice Scarf to this to allow you to have a reliable way to increase your Gourgeist's speed by 1 stage while locking it into a move. But as for the moves, these have also changed up just a little bit. The first one going to be Seed Bomb, and then Rock Slide is going to be used for coverage. And then for the third move slot, you could either go with Explosion to have a really reliable way to just deal some really solid damage to your opponent, or Phantom Force to have a really powerful ghost type move for you to go for. Keep in mind though that it is 2 turns, and you are locked into this if you do use the Choice Band or Choice Scarf, so your opponent is free to switch out and resist the hit if they are able to. Just something to keep in mind when using this. But for the last move slot, again, we have the option of going with Trick or Pain Split, just like before, but then since we are a much faster variant of Gourgeist this time, and we could also potentially be using a Choice Scarf, Destiny Bond can be a very reliable way to allow you to secure a KO on a Pokemon that has maybe boosted, or you're just having a lot of trouble taking it down. So that could be another really great option to run with this set to allow you to have another way to take down a Pokemon. So overall, this is just the faster variant of the previous set that gives you some different options and allows you to be a bit more of a speedy attacker, as opposed to the first one, which is a bit more bulky, but is also stronger because we are using the largest size of Gourgeist possible. Up next, I have a boosting set for Gourgeist that actually can be run by every single size of Gourgeist, so it doesn't even matter what kind you might have. But to start things off, we are either going to be running an Adamant nature to increase your physical attack and lower your special attack, or the Jolly nature to increase your speed and lower your special attack. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Frisk again. As for the EVs, we are going to put 4 into its HP to give it an HP number divisible by 4, 252 EVs into its physical attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. Now keep in mind, at level 50, if you are doing those types of Wi-Fi battles in your Pokemon X and Y games, the EV spread changes up quite a bit and is actually different for each size of the Gourgeist. Putting 4 HP EVs works for every single size at level 100, but at level 50 things are a little bit weird. I will explain this right now, but it is also on the Google Doc in the description if you want to check this out for ease of access. I couldn't fit all of this on this slide because there's just too much to write. So at level 50, for the sizes that are average and super size, you are going to be removing 4 HP EVs and putting those 4 EVs into your special defense. But at level 50, if you are the small and large size of Gourgeist, you are going to remove either 8 attack or 8 speed EVs and then put those 8 EVs into your HP to make sure that you have an HP number divisible by 4. And that's kind of important for the set because the first move that we are going with on the set is going to be Substitute, which is going to be taking away 25% of our health at every single time we use it, while also getting us behind a protective barrier to shield us from attacks and statuses. And this is obviously also meant to be used in combination with your item on this set, which is the Lychee Berry, which will increase your physical attack by 1 stage when you hit 25% of your health or below. So with a HP number divisible by 4, after you go for 3 substitutes, your Lychee Berry will activate to boost your physical attack. But to be used in combination with our boosted physical attack and Lychee Berry, we are going to be running Flame Charge on this set to have Gourgeist boost its speed by 1 stage every single time it goes for this move. It also gives you a pretty powerful fire type move to make use of, which honestly is really good for type coverage on this set. But we're also going to be running our main coverage of our Stab Grass type move in the form of Seed Bomb like before, and then Rock Slide to give us some really great type coverage in combination with this one move. So overall, you are designed on the set to boost your speed through the use of Flame Charge, maybe getting up multiple boosts if you have the opportunity to. Keep in mind that you are just naturally really physically bulky because of your really great physical defense, but as we're boosting with our Flame Charge, we are then getting into a lower range of health through our substitute to activate our Lychee Berry to turn Gourgeist into a very speedy and powerful attacker. And depending on the size you use, you will obviously be faster or stronger, so it's really up to you on what size you think is the best for you to use. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the smaller ones will be faster, whereas the larger ones will be quite a bit more powerful, but because we're boosting our speed regardless, you can do this with any size of Gourgeist. And lastly, I have a really fun set to use on this Pokemon that makes use of the really awesome Substitute Disable combination. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed and lower its special attack, and then we're going to be going with the Frisk again, with EV spread of 252 attack EVs to max that out, 4 into your special defense, and then 252 EVs into your speed to max that out as well with the Jolly Nature, and then we're going to be running Leftovers as your item. As far as the size is concerned on this Gourgeist, the smaller sizes are recommended to make you a little bit faster so that you can obviously set up your substitutes before your opponent is able to attack you, and then very easily disable whatever move they attacked you with, hoping for the most part that they won't have another move to reliably hit you with after you have already disabled their first attack. So the small size will obviously be the fastest, whereas the average size is a bit slower, but does have a little bit more bulk and power behind it, so it's really whichever one you think is best. But along with the Substitute Disable combination, which is mostly famously seen on Gengar, obviously this Pokemon can do it very well as well. We are going to be running Seed Bomb again as our main Grass-type stab attack, and then we are either going to be running Rock Slide or Will-O-Wisp in the third move slot and the last move of this set to either give you some better type coverage with Rock Slide or potentially burn and cripple other attackers through the use of Will-O-Wisp. This can also allow you to keep your substitutes up a lot easier if you do by chance burn a physical attacker, as now your awesome natural physical bulk is working in combination with the burned Pokemon to potentially keep your substitute alive even longer. So overall, this set is just a ton of fun to use and very frustrating for your opponent, as the sub-disable combination is a very difficult one for many opponents to be able to deal with, as more often than not, they won't have two reliable moves that will either hit you for neutral damage or super effective damage, meaning that you will either be able to resist the other one, or they'll have to use an unstab move to try to break your sub, also giving you potentially a free switch into something else on your team now that their main attack will be disabled. So overall, I really enjoyed the set and find it to be a ton of fun to use on this Pokemon, especially with the smallest size or the average size. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. So I wanted to thank you all for watching my exhibition on Gourgeist sets. There are 7 sets in this video, along with 2 having alternate EV spreads, so I guess 9 in total. So thank you all for watching. Feel free to follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and also bookmark the database that will have every set in this video in the description, as well as every other set used in the analysis series, and also join the chat at zat.com/pokegrounds to talk about Pokemon and plenty of other Pokemon related things to trade and battle and all stuff like that. And also, for one last time, since my tournament is coming up tomorrow at noon, I will plug this to make sure that everybody on this channel has a chance to register. It is taking place, obviously, tomorrow, December 21st, 2013, at noon Eastern Standard Time. Please check your clock to make sure you know what time that is for you if you are not East Coast United States like I am. Also, this will be taking place on Pokemon Showdown. The website is finally up and running, so there should be no issues with this tomorrow. And this is obviously going to be live streamed on my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Rykard3. So even if you can't enter the tournament, feel free to come by and watch the stream just to see how it goes, as it will be a ton of fun to see a mixed region monotype tournament. But that is it for this video, everybody. So as always, thank you all for watching. Take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.